The enemy has tried to steal your voice, your vision, your hope. But what God has sealed, no force of darkness can unseal. What he has written, no hand of man can erase. The sound in the Spirit is growing louder. The call is intensifying. The window is opening. And you are standing in the very moment that heaven planned long before you were born. Before time was formed, before the earth turned its first day under the sun, there was a voice that spoke light into darkness and order into chaos. That same voice, eternal and unshaken, spoke your existence into being. You were not born of accident nor summoned by fate. You were breathed into this realm with intention, precision, and purpose. And within the mystery of divine timekeeping, there was an appointed season etched in eternity. April 15th, a day not crafted by chance, but chosen as a point of unveiling. You may have walked through years not knowing its meaning, but the one who formed you knew where it would all lead. The pieces scattered across your past now begin to align with a greater orchestration, a pattern far beyond what the natural mind could comprehend. In the kingdom of heaven, nothing is random. Every moment carries weight. Every season holds preparation, and every delay conceals divine strategy. The waiting you endured, the wildernesses you wandered, the prayers that fell into silence, they were not evidence of abandonment, but of cultivation. When a seed is buried in the soil, it disappears from sight. The world around it assumes nothing is happening, but beneath the surface, in the hidden place, the process of transformation begins. Roots stretch deep. Foundations are formed. What was once dormant becomes destined. The silence of God is not the absence of God. It is often the evidence of a work too holy for human interference. There comes a time when the seed can no longer remain beneath the soil, when the weight of its purpose presses against the barrier of the earth, demanding to rise. April 15 is such a moment, a spiritual crossing point, where the concealed must now become revealed, where what was being formed in secret must now speak in the light. You have been prepared for this, without always knowing it. Every trial was shaping something eternal. Every battle was forging a strength not born of flesh but of fire, and every whisper of God in the stillness was aligning your heart with heaven's timing. That timing is not coming. It is now. The heavens operate on appointed times. The ancient Hebrews called them moadim, divine appointments set by God before the foundation of the world. These are not human-made holidays or religious traditions, but windows in time when heaven draws near to earth in a specific way. April 15 bears the markings of such a time. It is not only a date, it is a door. And like every divine door, it requires discernment to recognize, faith to approach, and obedience to step through. Many walk past such moments unaware, but those who walk with eyes to see and ears to hear will not miss what has been prepared for them. This door does not open to the casual passerby. It opens to the consecrated, to the yielded, to the ones who have allowed the wilderness to refine instead of destroy. It opens to the ones who still believe, even when the promise is tarried, even when the vision was delayed. For faith that survives the fire carries a weight that cannot be imitated, and that faith is what heaven is now breathing upon. You may feel like you have nothing left to offer, but that is the place where miracles are born. When the oil runs low, when the jar seems empty, when the strength has faded, there, in the desperation, the divine begins. God is not limited by your limitations. He is not deterred by your detours. He does not see as man sees. While others see failure, he sees formation. Where others see delay, he sees design. Where others see weakness, he sees the perfect place for his strength to dwell. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not disqualified. You are standing at the edge of the moment you were made for. The moment when the preparation meets the promise, when the unseen hand of heaven lifts the veil from your eyes and reveals what was always within you. There is a cry in the Spirit for the sons and daughters of God to rise, not as mere spectators of what God is doing, but as carriers of it, not as those seeking signs, but as those becoming signs to the world. The earth is groaning for the manifestation of those who know who they are, who know whose they are, and who understand that they were born not just to survive history, but to shift it. The mantle you carry is not for comfort, it is for commission. It is not for applause, it is for alignment. Heaven is not waiting for another celebrity, it is waiting for yielded vessels. Those who will say yes in the midst of uncertainty, who will stand firm when others fall away, who will walk forward when the way is unclear, but the word is sure. There is territory that must be taken, not with swords, but with surrender, not with might, but with faith. The battle is not always external. It is often the battle to believe that God truly meant what he said. That he truly chose you, that he truly sees you as capable, worthy, equipped. The enemy will always try to convince you otherwise. He will use your past, your fears, your failures, but none of those cancel the calling. None of those disqualify what heaven has ordained. You stand now at the edge of a divine summons. The wind of the Spirit is stirring. The clock of heaven is ticking. And you have been brought here not to pause, but to press in. This is not just your story. It is his story through you. When you rise, heaven moves. When you step forward, the earth begins to shift. You carry more than you know. You were chosen for more than you imagined. And the time is not coming. The time is now. There is a sound in the Spirit that precedes every move of God. It is not loud to the natural ear, but to those who are watching and listening, it is unmistakable. It is the sound of shaking, of stirring, of something ancient waking up. April 15 carries such a sound. It does not arrive with fanfare, yet it announces something weighty, not a change in routine, but a change in season. Not a minor adjustment, but a divine shift. This is not just the turning of a page. It is the opening of a new scroll. And with it, a new chapter written not just about your life, but through your life. The days leading to it have not been arbitrary. They have been days of aligning, cleansing, positioning. In the ways of God, preparation always precedes revelation. Before the fire fell on Mount Carmel, Elijah rebuilt the altar. Before the glory filled the temple, Solomon sanctified the house. Before the upper room was filled with wind and tongues of fire, the disciples waited in one accord. This pattern has not changed. Before the next unveiling comes, the purifying. Before the promise is released, the vessel must be ready. April 15th is not just a day to witness something happen. It is a day to be found ready, to be found in the right posture, the right place, the right heart. Every significant encounter in the scriptures happened at a point of surrender. Moses saw the burning bush when he turned aside. Abraham encountered the angel of the Lord when he raised the knife in obedience. Isaiah was caught up in the glory when he declared himself undone. The power of God is attracted not to performance, but to surrender. The altar is not a platform. It is a place of death to self. And from that place, resurrection begins. If God is stirring something on April 15, then he is also calling for surrender. Not partial, not convenient, not occasional, but complete. The kind of surrender that shifts the atmosphere and provokes the heavens to move. There are doors in the Spirit that do not open until someone takes the key of obedience and turns it. These doors are not made of wood or metal, but of timing, of revelation, of divine appointment. And once opened, they lead to rooms you were always meant to walk in. Rooms of influence, rooms of legacy, rooms of answered prayers. Some doors do not open with strength, but with stillness. Others open not when you knock louder, but when you worship deeper. April 15 is such a door. It will not respond to casual faith, but to covenant faith. It will not be moved by empty declarations, but by hearts fully yielded. What has been delayed is not denied. What has been withheld is not forgotten. Heaven operates on a timetable not dictated by man, but by divine orchestration. Sometimes God hides what he plans to magnify. Sometimes he waits longer to establish deeper roots. You may have looked at your life and seen silence, seen waiting, seen closed heavens, but heaven has seen ripening, has seen maturing, has seen the perfecting of timing. The fruit that lasts is not rushed. The fire that purifies does not flicker. What is coming has been long in the making, and that is why it cannot be shaken. It has been forged by unseen hands, watered by unseen tears, and now stands at the edge of release. There are those who sense the weight of this moment, but are unsure of their place in it. They ask if they are ready, if they are qualified, if they are too late. But God never begins with readiness. He begins with willingness. The loaves and fishes were not enough until they were offered. The widow's oil did not multiply until it was poured. The widow's oil did not part until Moses stretched out his hand. You do not need to feel ready. You only need to be yielded, because what he is about to do through you is not by might, not by power, but by his Spirit. You are not where you are by accident. Every detour has been a divine redirection. Every setback has been a setup. Every wilderness has been training for the moment when your voice will carry more than sound, it will carry spirit. The weight of glory rests not on the confident, but on the consecrated. And consecration is the mark of this hour, to be set apart, to be untouched by the distractions of the age, to be focused not on the storm around you, but on the fire within you. There are moments when time becomes a mirror, not a glass one can hold or hang on a wall, but a spiritual mirror, a reflection of what is hidden, a revelation of what has been stored within the soul. April 15th is not merely a day to be marked. It is a mirror held up by the hand of the Almighty. It is a day in which the veil thins and the unseen begins to break through. It is the moment when God shows you what has always been there, within you, around you, destined for you. A mirror reveals not just the present image, but also what has been formed through time, what has been weathered, and what has remained untouched, waiting for its appointed moment to emerge. When God calls a day holy, he doesn't call it so because of human tradition or ritual. He calls it holy because he has chosen to meet his people there. On such a day, things shift. The hidden becomes seen. The buried begins to rise. And the scroll that has remained sealed for seasons past begins to loosen. The scroll represents the written plans of God, divine blueprints, mysteries not yet revealed, appointments not yet fulfilled. On days like April 15, the scroll begins to unroll, and what was once obscured becomes undeniable. The question is never whether the scroll is there. The question is whether we are in position to read it. There are scrolls written over your life. These are not fairy tales or wishes. They are declarations written in the ink of eternity, bearing the weight of your calling and the intent of heaven. And yet they are not revealed all at once. They are revealed by seasons, in fragments, in appointed moments. And each scroll is sealed until its time. Just as the Lamb is worthy to open the scroll in the heavens, so the Spirit opens the scrolls in the lives of his people. When he determines that a time has come, nothing can hold it back. Not delay, not resistance, not fear, not even your past. The scroll reveals the reality of the battle you've been in. It makes sense of the things that felt senseless. It confirms what your spirit always suspected but your mind could not explain. It shows you that your warfare had purpose, that your silence was not rejection but preparation. It reveals how heaven has been weaving the unseen thread of destiny through every dry season, every closed door, every betrayal. The scroll reminds you that you are part of something larger than yourself, that there are alignments beyond your vision and orchestrations beyond your understanding, and that somehow it all converges here on this day set apart. But the scroll does not merely reveal information, it demands a response. For when God reveals, he does not do so to entertain, but to activate. Revelation is never passive. It is always pregnant with instruction. When a scroll is opened, you must decide whether you will walk in what it says or return to the comfort of the unknown. The Israelites saw the promised land, but their fear kept them out. John saw the vision of the future, but it burdened him to speak. Isaiah saw the Lord, and it led him to cry out, "Send me." When the scroll opens, the soul is brought into a divine crossroads. What has been revealed now requires obedience. The mirror of April 15th not only reflects the truth of who you are, but it exposes the lies that have clung to you. Lies of limitation, lies of insignificance, lies of defeat. It casts light upon the shadows that whispered you weren't enough, that you missed your moment, that your time was over. But light dispels darkness, and when the mirror is divine, it shows you as you were always meant to be, not defined by scars, but refined by, not marked by failure, but marked for glory. The scroll declares what God has always known and what the enemy hoped you'd never discover. This moment is not a coincidence. It is not a random flicker of inspiration. It is the result of timing that has been building in the secret places of heaven. The scroll opening on April 15 is tied to prayers you forgot you prayed, to seeds you sowed in tears, to choices you made when no one was watching. It is the moment where hidden becomes revealed and revelation demands action. The mirror shows what God sees. The scroll declares what he's written, and the Spirit invites you to step into what is being unsealed. There are moments in history when a person steps forward and shifts the course of what was into what must be. These moments are not born out of convenience or comfort, but out of divine orchestration. April 15 is not a passive date on the calendar. It is a threshold, a moment in time where the veil is thinner, where the call becomes clearer, and where the ones whom God has prepared must rise. You were not called to merely witness this time. You were not created to float through days waiting for some distant sign. You were formed in the fire, trained in the shadows, shaped by the unseen hand of the Almighty for such a moment as this. God is not looking for perfection. He is looking for obedience, for willingness, for a heart that will say yes when the moment of activation comes. The people whom God uses are not those the world would choose. David was a shepherd, unseen by even his own father. Gideon was hiding when the angel of the Lord appeared. Esther was an orphan before she became a queen. The pattern has not changed. Heaven looks not at status, but at readiness. And readiness does not always feel like strength. Sometimes it feels like brokenness, like dependence, like trembling. But that is where the Spirit works best, because in your weakness His power is made perfect, and in your trembling the authority of God is revealed. You are not just being invited to observe what God is doing, you are being invited to participate in it. This is not a time for passive faith, it is a time for prophetic movement. Heaven is searching for those who will partner with divine timing, who will recognize the weight of what they carry and step forward in it. The voice that has been silenced by fear must be loosed. The feet that have hesitated must move. The hands that have been weary must rise again. Because when God chooses a moment, He chooses vessels. And when He chooses vessels, He anoints them with fire. The anointing is not a feeling, it is not an emotional high. It is a weight, it is a commissioning. It is the mark of heaven resting upon the shoulders of those willing to carry glory. The ones who carry this anointing are not those who sought fame, but those who sought His face. They are the ones who walked away from lesser things to hold on to the eternal. The ones who endured the breaking and remained faithful. The ones who kept building when no one saw. The anointing costs something. It is pressed in private before it is poured out in public. You have been prepared in ways you do not fully understand. The closed doors were not rejection, they were redirection. The delays were not denials, they were alignments. The waiting was not wasted, it was watering the roots of endurance. There are mantles that fall in moments like these, but only upon the shoulders of those who are willing to step into the unknown. April 15 carries such a mantle. It is not just about your breakthrough, it is about what your obedience will unlock in others. Because when one voice rises in obedience, it gives permission for others to rise as well. When one light pierces the darkness, it reveals the path for many. God does not reveal a moment like this without purpose. If He has brought you here, it is because there is something in you that must now come forth. The time for hiding is over. The season of delay is breaking. What was once only a whisper in your heart must now become a declaration. You are not alone in this. There are others being awakened, other hearts being stirred, other voices being raised. The sound of the remnant is rising, and it carries the echo of eternity. Before the foundations of the earth, before the stars were set in the sky, before man took his first breath, there was a plan written not on scrolls of parchment, but on the scroll of eternity. A date, April 15, not a number on a calendar, no, a summoning, a day of alignment, a moment where heaven intersects with earth, and God saw you in it. From the beginning, time has never been random. In the eternal realm, there are no accidents, only appointments. And so, when we look at a date like April 15, we are tempted to see only what the world sees. A day marked by calendars, routines, and deadlines. But in the heavenly realms, it is not just a date. It is an appointed time. The ancient Hebrew calls it a moed, a sacred appointment, a meeting set not by man, but by the sovereign of time. It is a juncture where the divine intersects the mundane, where that which was hidden begins to be revealed, where destiny begins to whisper through the veil. April 15. To many has become known as a day of accounting, when taxes are due, when what has been earned is measured, recorded, and reported. But what if that earthly shadow mirrors a higher truth? What if the day of earthly accounting is pointing to a heavenly one? What if the burdens we carry on that date were never just about money or government, but about our spiritual inheritance, our obedience, our alignment with divine timing? From Genesis, God set times and seasons, not just for the cycles of the sun and moon, but for appointed purposes. The children of Issachar were praised because they understood the times and knew what Israel should do. They didn't just observe the passing of days, they discerned them. That same discernment is required for us now. April 15 is not a coincidence. It is a clue, a signal in the timeline of heaven that something is shifting. The book of Daniel speaks of the Ancient of Days sitting upon his throne and books being opened. These books are not just for the end of days. They are for appointed times within time. They hold the record of what has been planted and what is ready to be harvested. And when a Moed arrives, those books are accessed, the scrolls unsealed, and the destinies written within begin to manifest. There is a day for sowing, there is a day for watering, and there is a day for reckoning, the moment when what was sown in faith begins to show its fruit. But we often miss the moment. We dismiss the days because they look ordinary. We assume that God will only thunder in the clouds or split the sky. But more often he moves in the subtle, in the hidden, in the dates marked only by the Spirit. The day of Moses' burning bush seemed like any other. The day David was called from the sheepfold was unremarkable to everyone else. The day the Spirit descended at Pentecost was just another feast until it wasn't. April 15th, in the same way, hides its true identity from those without eyes to see. But when God appoints a time, he is not just marking an event. He is positioning his people. He is aligning hearts, preparing vessels and placing them in proximity to divine outpouring. He is activating purposes that have lain dormant, awakening callings that have been sleeping under the weight of delay. To perceive an appointed time is to know the urgency of preparation. For if the window opens and we are not ready, we miss the visitation. Jesus wept over Jerusalem for that very reason. They did not know the time of their visitation. So we must ask, what is April 15 in the Spirit? What is the true event being unfolded behind the veil? Is it a release of provision, a calling into new authority, a breaking of old yokes? Is it the day when your prayers begin to take form, the day when what was lost is restored? We cannot say with human certainty, but we can say this. It is a day marked in heaven. And if heaven has marked it, then hell will try to obscure it. Distraction will come, fatigue will rise. Chaos may attempt to break focus because the enemy fears an appointed people standing in an appointed time. The power of an appointed time is not just that something happens, but that something happens through you. The Red Sea parted not just because the time had come, but because Moses was there to lift the staff. Elijah called down fire not just because God willed it, but because Elijah discerned the moment. Esther saved a nation not just because she was queen, but because she said yes in the kairos. And so it is with you. You are not just living through April 15th, you have been brought to it. And if it is an appointed time, then it is also a time of decision, because appointments come with preparation. They require response. They have nothing to do with an accidental moment. Long before you drew your first breath, before you spoke your first word, before you even had the strength to stand, God saw you. He saw you not as the world sees, not defined by your weaknesses or your past, but as heaven sees, marked, chosen, prepared for a purpose beyond your comprehension. There was a moment in eternity when your name was whispered into existence, and with that name came a calling, a journey, a weaving of days that would eventually bring you to the threshold of what was planned. April 15th was not placed on your calendar by chance. It was set by the Ancient One, carved into the fabric of time, because he saw you in it. There is a mystery in how God sees. We see the now, the temporary, the flesh. He sees the eternal, the unfolding, the full story. We often live our days as if we are stumbling through shadows, yet from his vantage point, every step is part of a design. The trials you thought were random, the battles that left you scarred, the silent seasons that made you question your worth, none of them were wasted. Every tear was counted, every loss was noted, every cry was heard. Not one moment passed without being woven into the greater narrative he was crafting in and through you. And now that narrative brings you to April 15, not as a bystander, but as a participant in the unfolding of destiny. When Joseph was thrown into a pit, it looked like the end. When he was sold into slavery, it looked like the betrayal had won. When he was forgotten in prison, it looked like the promise had faded. But through it all, God saw him in a future Pharaoh's court. He saw the famine before it came. He saw the salvation before the problem even began. He saw the answer inside the one who looked forsaken. And he sees the same in you. He sees you not only as you are, but as you will be when the fullness of your calling is revealed. And in that foresight, he orchestrates time itself. He brings about moments like April 15. Your preparation did not begin last week or last month. It began in the womb. The psalmist wrote that God knit you together, that your days were written before one of them came to be. That means April 15 was written. That means it was seen. That means it is not just a date, it is a culmination. God foresaw the moment when everything you endured would begin to make sense. The pain, the silence, the waiting. He saw how it would forge something unshakable in you. Faith, endurance, a fire that cannot be quenched. That is why you are still here. Because he saw in you the ability to carry what others could not. You may have questioned your worth. You may have wondered why your prayers seemed unanswered, why doors remained shut, why your path seemed harder than others. But that's because you were not being prepared for ordinary. The gold is not refined by comfort. The warrior is not trained on peaceful fields. The vessel of glory is not shaped without pressure. He saw what he needed to build in you to carry this moment. He saw April 15th long ago, and he knew it would require someone who had walked through fire and had not been consumed. This is why your story is different. This is why your battles were so fierce, because the enemy always attacks what carries weight. He fears what has been sealed by heaven. He knows the impact of a life surrendered, a voice anointed, a vessel refined. He knows what happens when someone steps into the time for which they were born. So he tried to break you before you arrived. But God saw that too. He saw the attacks, and he saw your survival. He saw your nights of wrestling, and he counted them as preparation. He saw what would come against you, and he allowed only what would shape you. God does not simply react to time, he writes it. He doesn't just look forward, he sees the end from the beginning, and he saw you in this time, in this year, on this specific day, and he did not panic when you felt lost. He did not abandon you when you doubted. Because he already saw the victory. He already saw the moment where what was hidden in you would begin to rise. Not for your glory, but for his. Not so you could boast in strength, but so you could witness the unveiling of what was always there, hidden like treasure in a field, buried under layers of trial and time, but seen by God, always seen, always planned, always appointed.